Hey Krishna, thank you all so much for joining us today. And we will be studying Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat as a part of our Bhakti Vaibhav course. And currently we are in Canto 1, Chapter 3, and we will finish Chapter 3 today, Krishna willing. We'll get started with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkrapatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramanandamadavam Krishna Chaitanyamishwaram Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपः कुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, and before we get into the verses for today, which is verses 41 through 44 of Canto 3, anyone remembers what was discussed in verse number 40 of Srimad Bhagavatam? That's where Mataji stopped in the previous class. Because that from there is, that is where we will continue from basically. Verse number 40 onwards is a new section. And you have seen a glimpse of verse number 40. So anyone remembers the last? Yes, Sadamari Mataji, you'll always be the first one to raise your hand as expected. Please go ahead and tell us what is verse 40.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you, Pranam. Mataji, verse 40, the stories of Srimad Bhagavatam starts from here. And verse 40 describes that it is Brahma Samhitam. That Srimad Bhagavatam is the incarnation of Lord Krishna.
Yes.
And then Uttama Shloka Charitam, activities of the Supreme Lord are described here. Shall I tell all the points, Mataji?
Yes, go ahead. Whatever you learned in verse number 40, you can tell that.
Yeah. Then Chakara Bhagavan Rishi, compilation of Srila Vyasdev. Vyasdev compiled it. Then Nishyasyaya Lokasya. Bhagavatam is for the ultimate benefit of all. Dhyanam Swastyayanam Mahat. So Bhagavatam is all successful. Swastyayanam is all peaceful, and Mahat all perfect.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Very nice. Thank you for nicely summarizing verse number 40, which is the glory of Bhagavatam. So what happened is, Sutta Goswami, he was speaking to Shaunakadi Rishi, who were all lamenting. They were feeling very, very sad that, oh, you spoke so much about bhakti and we are without bhakti. So are we an object of criticism? They were thinking like that. But then our, Sutta Goswami, he was encouraging everybody. He was encouraging everybody and he's telling, don't worry, now I will speak a very great scripture. What is the scripture that I'm going to speak? That sages is asking, oh, what are you going to tell us that is going to glorify bhakti? So what is that you're going to recite now? the sages apparently are asking Suta Goswami. When Suta Goswami says, "Don't worry, I will tell you a way that you can be without a repetition of birth and death." And the sages were asking, "What is that way? What is that auspicious Purana that you're going to recite?" And Suta Goswami says, "Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam." So he begins to tell the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam, just like how Sadamani Mataji told us. Okay, it is a novel scripture and it is the most auspicious. It bestows all the human goals. It is non-different from Krishna and it describes the qualities of the Lord and it gives highest benefit to everybody. Everybody is benefited out of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is being told. Now, when we start glorifying the Bhagavatam, we don't just glorify with one sentence, right? So we go on glorifying the Bhagavatam, and that is what is happening here. So now Sutta Goswami, he goes on glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the future verses from 41 to 44, it is also a glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the end of this chapter from verses 40 to 44 is nothing but a glorification of Bhagavatam. I'm not sure if it's there in your question bank, if this question is there, because we used to have this question as a part of our Bhakti Vaibhav exam. If it's there, then you might have to write the essence of these 4 verses in nice words, okay? If it is there as a part of exam. Yes, Narahari Prabhu.
Mataji, I have a question. Out of the 6 questions which are asked by the sages, right? Like, what is the first question was, what is the ultimate benefit for all people? And when I'm looking at this verse, right, like here, Dhanyam Swasti Ayanam Mahat, right? Like it is, and this is the ultimate benefit for all people. Can this not be the answer to the first question?
Yes, this is definitely the ultimate benefit for all people simply because it is also glorifying Bhagavatam, right? But yes, as you said, I mean, it's glorifying the devotees or the process of devotional service. Bhagavatam, sorry, if I can rephrase it, Bhagavatam is glorifying the process of devotional service. So definitely by reading the Bhagavatam, you are going to get the ultimate benefit. So this can also be the answer. Okay, because by reading the Bhagavatam, what are you getting? You're getting the benefit of getting devotional service. So it is a devotional service that Bhagavatam is giving you, correct? So definitely, yes, it is the answer. Bhagavatam is the answer. The subject discussed in the Bhagavatam is devotional service.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Mataji.
Something like that, yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. Okay. 41. Okay. Tad idam grahiyam asa sutam atmavatam varam sarva vede itihasanam saram samudritam. Translation, someone?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Sri Vyasdeva delivered it to his son, who is the most respected among the self-realized, after extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and histories of the universe. Hare Krishna.
Yo, Prabhu, thank you. So first, the Bhagavatam is introduced, that it is the greatest of all Vedic literatures. But now, what is being told? The Guru Parampara, how this Bhagavatam was received. So now, Sutta Goswami says that this Bhagavatam was delivered by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva spoke the Bhagavatam to his son Shukadeva Goswami. Who is the Shukadeva Goswami? This Shukadeva Goswami is the most respected among the self-realized. After and Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by Vyasadeva after extracting the cream of all the Vedic literatures and histories of the universe. So, which means Vyasadeva has composed so many different scriptures. He has composed Puranas, he's composed the Vedas, he's composed the Itihasas, the Upanishads, he's composed everything. Composed means what? It is always eternal, but then Vyasa, he comes to divide and classify. So Vyasa means one who classifies. So basically, he has come to give us this entire gamut of Vedic literature. But then what did Vyasadeva do? After extracting the cream of the Vedic literatures, the histories of the universe, he has churned it out nicely, and from that churned product, he has received the Srimad Bhagavatam and he has presented it to his son who is Shukadeva Goswami. And who's the Shukadeva Goswami? This Shukadeva Goswami is very, very respected among the self-realized. So you see here, Saram Samudritam. So when you churn, you will get the essence of the essence, right? So that essence of the essence is nothing but the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he begins to talk about the history of the world. He says there are many people in this world who say that the Vedic history starts only from the time of Buddha, which is about 600 BC. And anything that was there before that was all myth. Why? Because they are only able to trace history up till this point. Some modern scholars, they are able to trace history only up till 600 BC by many physical means, mechanical means. They're like, for example, you have archaeology and other things. Okay, so there are so many ways of gathering knowledge. Generally, these ways of gathering knowledge are through pratyaksh praman. Through some research and analysis, they have come to the point, many people, that our Vedic history can only trace back up till the time of Buddha. And what do they say? They say the rest of it that was there before this period is only imaginary stories, because they probably trace things up till the Harappan civilization or the Indus Valley civilization, and they'll say we can see only history up till here. So that is the statement that the historians make. But however, we should understand that all the stories that is mentioned in the Puranas, the Mahabharata and all, they are really, really true. And the Puranas, they have stories of not only this planet, that is the Earth planet, they have stories from all over the universe. They have stories from interplanetary systems. Not only this world, but also beyond this world. Many stories are there, right? Even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we see stories in different universes. It may not necessarily be only in the earthly planet. We read what happened in the heavenly planet, we read what happens in the hellish planets, and then when we talk about creation, we say Karnodakashaya Vishnu created multiple universe, and the Lord incarnates in all the universes. So if we go on talking like this, what happens? Modern day men, they think this is unbelievable. It is not possible because they have a poor fund of knowledge. They cannot accept the word of Shastra as Praman. That is the problem. Prabhupada is telling, but they do not know that different planetary systems are not equal in all respects. Therefore, some of the historical facts derived from other planetary systems do not correspond with the experience of this planet. So, because we are so tuned to seeing things with our eyes and limited by our experience, supposing when Prabhupada says there is life in all the planets, okay? So what do we think? To have life, we need oxygen. We need a particular temperature because the earth provides life in a particular situation. Like there should be oxygen, there should be water, the temperature should be suitable. Then we accept there is life. So we are sending astronauts everywhere and we are trying to see if there is life, if there are situations in other planets that can support life. But what is our point of reference? Our point of reference is our conditions. We are limited by that. We are not able to understand that in other planets, different situations can be there and still life can be there. How do we understand that? That we can understand only through scripture. Only when we read scripture, we realize, okay, higher planetary systems, they have a different condition altogether. Lower planetary systems, they function totally different, and the kind of living entities are also different. All this information we get from Shastra. But then if a layman comes and tells all this, we might not, we might think, no, on earth, I have oxygen, I have water, the temperature is perfect, so there is life. That means if the same situation is there in a different planet, only there can be life. But then Prabhupada defeats that. He says, considering the different situation of different planets and also time and circumstances, there is nothing wonderful in the stories of the Puranas, nor are they imaginary. So he's saying, don't think that it is, some fancy cock and bull stories, whatever is presented in the Puranas, they are all 100% true. We should not think that if it is beyond my perception, it is only imaginary. No, it exists in reality. So Prabhupada, he says, we should not reject the stories and histories of the Puranas as imaginary, because the great rishis like Vyasadeva and others, it's not like they had no business to do than write fancy stories. Prabhupada is telling the great rishis like Vyasa had no business putting some imaginary stories in their literatures. If they were, we should not think they were so jobless that they ended up writing some random imaginary stories, some novel, some fiction stories. No, they were all great rishis. They were realized souls. They have put truth into these scriptures. And he says this Srimad Bhagavatam has historical facts that are selected from different stories in different planets. So all the stories from different planetary systems are put together in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam is approved. It's written by Vyasadeva, who's the greatest of all rishis, and it is also approved by all the other spiritual authorities. All the spiritual authorities, like we have Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami, Vallabhacharya, everybody, Nimbarkacharya, even Shankaracharya, everybody, they all respect the Puranas. They respect the words written by Vyasadeva. And in fact, this Srimad Bhagavatam is accepted as a Mahapurana. Mahapurana by all the spiritual authorities. So what is a Mahapurana? A Mahapurana is one that has Sarga, Visarga, all these different aspects. Like, for example, you have this 210.1. There is a verse here, if you can see this verse. Atra sargo visargascha sthanam poshanamutayah manvantara ishanukata nirodho muktir ashraya. So these are the 10 divisions of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam deals with 10 subject matters. It deals with the creation of the universe, the subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, change of Manu, signs of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the Samam Bonam. So a Mahapurana has different elements, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam. It has these 10 elements. Therefore, it is considered as a Mahapurana. So all the spiritual authorities have accepted this as a Mahapurana. This verse will come to again when we do 10th chapter. I'm sure it will be a memorization verse, because we should know the 10 subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam. But you can note it down for your reference. It is 2.10.1. It's a very famous verse that talks about the 10 subject matters that makes this a Mahapurana, okay, the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the different stories that is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam come from different time and a different atmosphere, meaning from different planetary system. So Shukadeva Goswami, he has studied all this that is presented in Srimad Bhagavatam from his very advanced father, Srila Vyasadeva. And this Vyasadeva, he is an authority of Srimad Bhagavatam. And how did he come up with Srimad Bhagavatam? He came up with Srimad Bhagavatam after he compiled so many different kinds of Vedic literature. When he saw all the Vedic literatures that he had compiled, he decided to churn out the cream of this entire milk ocean of knowledge. So what is the cream of milk? It is actually that nice white butter, okay, creamy butter. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is like that cream. It is the butter of the milk ocean of all the scriptures. So when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can attain the highest knowledge. So this is what Suta Goswami is telling those sages. Those sages were lamenting, we don't have bhakti. But then Suta Goswami is telling, no, I will tell you a great Purana. What Purana are you going to tell? I will tell you the Purana that only talks about bhakti, that only gives you devotion. And how do we know that this is the best of all scriptures? Because Vyasa itself could understand that this is indeed the cream of all Vedic literature. When Vyasa was despondent, that we will get to know very soon. When he was despondent itself, Narada Muni inspires him to glorify bhakti even more, and he churns out the cream of all the Vedic literature and he presents the Bhagavatam. So this is the greatness of Bhagavatam. However, Srila Prabhupada tells us there is no gain, however, in accepting the message of Bhagavatam from non-believers, atheists, and professional reciters. So he talks about all these different kinds of people we tend to hear from. Sometimes we hear from some mundane researchers. They might not understand the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam as it is. For them, it is only an ordinary research topic. Sometimes we may hear it from some professional reciters who are reciting Bhagavatam for money. That will not create a change in the heart. So we should know whom we are hearing Bhagavatam from. So here we are hearing this Bhagavatam that was delivered to Srila Shukadev Goswami by Vyasadev, and Shukadev Goswami and Vyasadev, they did not have anything to do with business. Vyasadev has never asked, okay, give me copyrights. No, he has given the Shastra to us. He didn't say, okay, I've written this, I need copyrights for this. And if you have to repeat it, you have to pay me some money, whatever you call it, some, I don't know what it's called, something. So if someone has a copyright, you have to give them some money.
Royalty.
Royalty. Yeah, royalty. So there's no royalty business. There's nothing in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada is telling he did not have to maintain family expenses by such trade. So he didn't have such commitments. Okay, I have to raise Shukadev, so better give me money. No, nothing like that. It was not a business. Srimad Bhagavatam should therefore be received from the representative of Shukadev, who must be in the renounced order of life without family encumbrance. That means he's telling a person who's not trying to make a living through Srimad Bhagavatam. Those are the people from whom you should hear Srimad Bhagavatam. The person who's reciting Bhagavatam should not be worried about the dakshina. Okay, I'm getting so much dakshina and I'm going to feed my family. So such kind of consciousness should not be there. That person should be completely renounced from such a thought. It doesn't mean that you should hear Bhagavatam only from a sannyasi. That's not the idea. The idea is they should have a renounced approach when they are speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the famous analogy of Srila Prabhupada, you must have heard this a million times. Milk is undoubtedly very good and nourishing, but when it is touched by the mouth of a serpent, it is no longer nourishing. It becomes a source of death, especially hearing from Mayavadis. Prabhupada mentions this. Why? Because they concoct the philosophy and they change the entire spirit of Srimad Bhagavatam. So one should be very careful not to hear from the mouth of Mayavadis or atheists or business people. So we should be very, very careful when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Why so? Why? Why? Because it can change the way we approach Srimad Bhagavatam. We may never be able to grasp the essence of Bhagavatam if we hear from the wrong source. So instead of nourishment, it will become death. So Prabhupada is telling, similarly, those who are not strictly in the Vaishnava disciple should not make a business of this Bhagavatam and become a cause of spiritual death for so many hearers. If we are thinking we can, we'll take some portions from Srimad Bhagavatam and make a business out of it, then we are not only destroying our spiritual life, we are also destroying the spiritual life of many others. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has said that the purpose of all the Vedas is to know Him. Vedesha sarve ahameva Veda Vedantakrit Veda Vedeva Chaham. And Srimad Bhagavatam is Lord Krishna Himself in the form of recorded knowledge. So the Bhagavad Gita is the knowledge given by Krishna, spoken by Krishna, and Bhagavatam is about Krishna. It is recorded knowledge about Krishna. Therefore, it is the cream of Vedas. Just like how Bhagavad Gita is the cream of all the Upanishads, this Srimad Bhagavatam becomes the cream of all the Vedas, and it contains all the historical facts in relationship with Krishna. So it is factually the essence of all the histories in the world, the Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are all verses in glorification of Bhagavatam. Why are they glorifying Bhagavatam? Because Shukadev Goswami is making this point. I'm going to chant this great scripture. This great scripture is amazing. It will change your hearts. Don't worry. Don't lament that you don't have bhakti. Just by hearing this Bhagavatam, you will get bhakti. And it is also not just the glory. Sometimes we just say, oh, this is glorious, that is glorious. But we don't say where we heard it from. we should hear it from proper parampara, right? We should have proper praman for repeating whatever we have heard. So here he's telling this Srimad Bhagavatam that I am repeating, it was spoken by Shukadev Goswami. And Shukadev Goswami, how did he get it? He learned it from Vyasadeva, who's the compiler of all scriptures. And how did Vyasadeva get it? He wrote so many literatures, but then he churned the essence of all the literatures and he gave the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he continues to say, let's see what else he says. Sato samshravayam asa maharajan parikshitam prayopavishitam gangayam paritam paramashabhihi. Anybody for translation?
Can I try my
Okay.
best?
Sukadev, go ahead, bro.
No, please go ahead, bro.
Sukadev Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in his turn delivered the Bhagavatam to great Emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges, awaiting death without taking food or drink.
So now how did Suta Goswami hear it? He said, yeah, this Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by Vyasa to Shukdev Goswami. Fine, but where did Suta Goswami get the knowledge, hear it from? He said he got the knowledge from Shuka. But when and how and where? That he says in this verse. He says, Shukadev Goswami, that son of Vyasadeva, when he delivered the Bhagavatam to the great Emperor King Parikshit Maharaj, was surrounded by sages sitting on the banks of the river Ganges, awaiting his death without food or drink. That time, actually, the Suta Goswami has learned it. Okay, so Suta Goswami was also among the different personalities, among all the sages who were there when this Shukdev Goswami spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam to Emperor Parikshit. Now, there's a nice word that is used here. It says prayopavesham. Prayopavesham means like fasting unto death. He was trying to fast unto death without food or drink. And where was he sitting? He was sitting on the bank of the river Ganges. Now, this is interesting because later in the 19th chapter, when the story of how Parikshit Maharaj requests Shukdev Goswami to speak, at that time, Srila Jiva Goswami mentions, like if you see in this verse, this is 119.6, he says, actually, they are saying Ganga, Ganga, but it is not Ganga where he sat. He must have sat in the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna, but he would have sat closer to Yamuna. That is Jiva Goswami's realization. So you see this, Jiva Goswami is telling here, Maharaj Parikshit, just after receiving the news of his death within 7 days, at once retired from family life and shifted himself to the sacred banks of the Yamuna river, he says. He says, generally, it is said that the king took shelter at the bank of the river Ganges, like how we read just now. Generally, that is the understanding. But according to Srila Sri Jiva Goswami, the king took shelter on the banks of the river Yamuna. Srila Jiva Goswami's statement appears to be more accurate because of the geographical location. Maharaj Parikshit resided in his capital Hastinapur, that is situated near Delhi. And the river Yamuna flows near Hastinapur or Delhi, right? So naturally, the king would have taken shelter in the river Yamuna because it was flowing past his palace door. As far as the sanctity is concerned, river Yamuna is more directly connected with Krishna than the Ganges because, yeah, Ganga flows from the lotus feet of Krishna, but then Yamuna is greater because Krishna dived and jumped and played in the river Yamuna. So Ganga has the contact of just his lotus feet, but Yamuna has the contact of his entire body. So definitely Yamuna is greater than even Ganga. So it appears that it was more on the Yamuna side that Parikshit Maharaj actually heard the Srimad Bhagavatam. Though generally we say Ganga. It's not wrong to say Ganga again. It could be somewhere where Ganga and the Yamuna are meeting or something, but more on the Yamuna side. Okay. So Shukadev Goswami, who was the son of Vyasadeva, delivered the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, who was fasting unto death. Why was he fasting unto death? He was fasting unto death because he knew that Takshaka would come and bite him. And he wanted to use those 7 days very appropriately. Without focusing on bodily needs, he wanted to hear something that is very important. So he was sitting like that without food and drink. And he hears the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Suta Goswami, who was present there, was able to grasp whatever was spoken. So Prabhupada is telling here, we see even in the previous verse and in this verse, there is an important given to the chain of disciplic succession. One person speaks to the other, and that is how you're receiving knowledge. So this disciplic succession is called as parampara. So all the Vedic literatures, be it Bhagavatam or any other Vedic literature, how do we receive it? We receive it through Guru Parampara. If we do not receive it through Guru Parampara, then it is not bona fide. So this Vyasadeva, he delivered the message to Shuka. Shuka, then when he was speaking to all the sages for the sake of Parikshit, so the Goswami also heard the message. So like this, the message of the Bhagavatam was received from a proper representative. Bhagavatam should not be received from any irrelevant interpreter. There's a tendency for us to freely interpret. Sometimes we interpret a lot, yeah. But Bhagavatam was not something that was received through some interpreter. Rather, it was received a proper Guru Parampara. So, and Parikshit Maharaj, when he received the Srimad Bhagavatam, it was 7 days he sat there, and it was the time of his death. So, because he knew he's going to die, he decided to leave his kingdom, his family, and everything, and he decided to fast. And when this news spread that Parikshit Maharaj has decided to fast until death, everybody, they all knew that Shukadeva Goswami is going to come and give knowledge. So all the rishis, the philosophers and mystics, they all decided to come there so that they could also be the beneficiary of Srimad Bhagavatam. They could also hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Prabhupada says, Sripad Shankaracharya, who preached the Mayavad philosophy, he stresses on the impersonal feature of the Lord. So the Srimad Bhagavatam directly speaks about Bhakti. It speaks about the personal feature of the Lord. But then there is also an understanding of the impersonal feature of the Lord by the Mayavadi schools. So Srila Prabhupada is telling Shankaracharya, who came and preached this message of Mayavad philosophy that God is impersonal, he kept telling this. Though he said that, finally what did he recommend? He finally recommended that one should take shelter only at the lotus feet of Krishna. There is no use debating. So what did he say? Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. So he said, what is the use? Samprapte Sanniti Kale Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukran Karane. So what is the use of all this Dukran? It is not going to help you at the time of death. But then if you take shelter at the lotus feet of Govinda and chant his names, Yamena Charcha, you will not be doing Charcha with Yamaraj at the time of death. So he's telling indirectly, Sripad Shankaracharya admitted that what he preached in the flowery grammatical interpretations of the Vedanta Sutra cannot help one at the time of death. So that's why there were so many different kinds of impersonalists. There were yogis, there were karmakandis, so many different kinds of people. Even at the time of death, if you're sitting and reading grammar and word jugglery, trying to interpret scriptures, it is not going to help you. That job is already done. Why did Vyasadeva take the effort to churn the scriptures, to give it to us in an easily palatable format? That is why he took the effort. He has taken great effort to pass down the knowledge to Shukadeva Goswami, who has taken effort to give it to Parikshit and all the sages. And Sutta Goswami is now giving it to the assembly of sages. And we are also hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam today. We are discussing Bhagavatam. We are doing Bhakti Vaibhav course. Why all this effort was taken? It was taken for our benefit. But instead of just grabbing something in a silver platter, what are we doing? We are thinking, I will interpret and I will churn out, I will read grammar and all this, and I will figure out what the Bhagavatam is telling or what is the greatest essence of the Vedic literature. We are thinking we will do it. But then that is all a waste of time. Shankaracharya said, don't waste your time like that. Just take shelter at the lotus feet of Govinda, chant his names, and that's it. That is what the Bhagavatam's message is also. It is telling us the glories of Sri Krishna. It is giving us Nam Mahima. It is telling us all about Krishna, how we should take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. So that is all we should be doing. The recommendation is not only given by Shankaracharya, this recommendation is given by all transcendentalists. So Shukadeva Goswami had long ago stated the same truth, and at the end, one should remember only Narayana. That is the goal of everyone's life. We just remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. So this is the essence of all spiritual activities. In the pursuance of the eternal truth, Srimad Bhagavatam was heard by Parikshit. He was at the time of death. It was recited by Shukadev Goswami. Both the speaker and the receiver of the messages of Bhagavatam were duly delivered by the same medium. That means this Bhagavatam is so powerful that whether you speak Bhagavatam or you hear Bhagavatam, that Bhagavatam will deliver us. So that's the most powerful essence of all scriptures. Research is done, the cream has been churned out, it is served to you, just accept it. Whether you speak Bhagavatam, you hear Bhagavatam, you read Bhagavatam, delivery is guaranteed. Okay, all classes of people are definitely delivered. Yes, Padmini Mataji?
Mataji, I just want to, we had this 1.2.11 where we had that Vadanti Tattva Tattva. There also it is mentioned that Brahman, Bhagavan and Paramiti, they are all same. It's a realization of the same truth, which is what is close to what Shankaracharya told us. Because Shankaracharya mostly talked about the Brahman component, but it's all true, but it's only realization is different is what we read in 1.2.11. Is it right, Mataji?
Yeah, absolute truth is known in different features. All are correct. But then the complete understanding is the personality of Godhead. That is the most complete feature, right? Just like the analogy
that one
of the sun.
emphasizes, that slogam emphasizes that it is same, like the
It is same.
realization is the same.
Yes, the
So no,
no,
my
no,
thing is
realization is not the same. They are the same truth. That's all. Realization is not the same.
no, different levels of realization.
Mm-hmm.
Truth is one,
Mm.
but realization is different, right, Mataji?
Correct. Yes.
So
Yes.
that is how Shankaracharya also gave one type of realization, even though the truth is one, and ultimately he came back to the truth that it is Krishna, the ultimate.
Shankaracharya, ultimately, he said, don't worry, just chant Bhaja Govindam. That was one of his final teachings. Okay, because he was a covered devotee, meaning he was an incarnation of Lord Shiva, and he had come with a purpose. He had come with a purpose. This is there in Padma Puran, that he had a purpose because you know how this history unfolded. The Buddhists had become quite rampant, and then to bring back the attention of people from getting deviated to Buddhism, Shankaracharya came and he emphasized taking shelter of the Vedas. And he said, we are also not telling anything different. Instead of Shunyam, we are telling one. Okay, Advaitam. Everything is one. Everything is Brahman. You're also Brahman. Everything is Brahman. So just focus on Brahman and focus on impersonal feature of the Lord. That is how he gradually brought the focus of the people towards accepting the Vedas. If Shankaracharya was not there today, the Vedic literature wouldn't have been preserved the way it is preserved today. He did a great service. But then at that time, the society was only able to accept so much. They were not ready for further philosophical understanding. Then later the Vaishnavacharyas came and they modified it and they gave more and more insights into what the correct understanding is. Like we had Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, and so many others. And finally, we have Jiva Goswami who puts everything together. So the idea is that Shankaracharya, though he preached monism, that is, everything is one, still in his heart he was a devotee because he is not different from Lord Shiva. So as a devotee, ultimately he said, okay, forget all this, just chant Govinda. That's all. That is enough for the perfection of one's life, which is true. That is what even Bhagavatam is telling. Just chant Govinda. That's it. Yes,
Thank you.
Tulsi.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you much.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I was wondering that when his disciple Shripad Adi Shankaracharya's disciples, when so many of them learned for many years under him in his school of thought, then at the end when he gave this Bhaja Govindam full laden with bhakti, then did any of his hardcore Mayavadi followers, disciples leave him that, oh, he's not consistent with what he taught? Like, did that happen ever? Or
We don't know if his specific followers left him, but then in history, we see eventually there was if you see historically, at least I can tell you, um, this is only, how do I say this? In history, generally. First, there was a lot of Buddhism. Almost it appeared that everybody was influenced by this philosophy. Then Shankaracharya came and he turned the attention of everyone to at least Advaitam. Okay, there was a lot of people who were understanding monism and they were giving respect to the Vedas. They were learning the Vedas. They were chanting all this, and things was rolling back to almost normalcy. Then, if you see the source of the later philosophers, like I'm just giving you an example of be it Ramanuja or Madhvacharya and all that, many of them, they could even be coming from originally before they became an acharya and they took on a different philosophy. They could have come in a lineage or a family that was probably following the Advaita principles. But then it is, see, just like us, right? Today, we all come from different family backgrounds. Maybe our family members, I'm just giving this answer, Mataji, out of realization. It's not there in any scripture. It's just a personal thought to answer your question. So, like, you might be coming from a particular background. Your parents could be, probably, they could be followers of Shankaracharya or grandparents. And then eventually you come to the realization that no, there is a problem here in this philosophy, and you get exposed to something advanced like what we are learning today in our Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And then from your generation onwards or your parents' generation onwards, you become a Gaudiya Vaishnava. And then the future generations are also Gaudiya Vaishnava. Right? So to answer your question, yes, all these possibilities were there even in earlier times, even 500,000 years ago also. They, like, for example, I'll give you a direct example of Ramanujacharya itself. Ramanujacharya's ancestors were not necessarily Visishta Advaitis. No, they could have been Mayavadis, actually. Okay, but then there is a transformation that comes through, and then he goes and he takes shelter of the teachings of Yamunacharya, and then he develops the Visishtadvaita philosophy. So it's, yes, to answer your question, over a period of time, people have rejected what they were taught to follow. It might not be the direct disciple of Shankaracharya, but in the coming generations, it has happened. That is the understanding. Did it make sense?
yes, Mataji, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Praladhan.
Mataji, Dhanwad Pranam. Just the prime example of this discussion is, Sukdev Goswami himself. He says,
Very good. Why beat around the bush? Yes.
परिनिष्ठितोपि नैर्गुण्य उत्तम श्लोक लीलया गृहीत राजस्य आख्यानम यदधित्वा. When I heard just two slokas, I got converted. Thank you, Mata.
Yes, why beat around the bush? The real example is Shukdev Goswami. Yeah, why couldn't I make it simple? That's why we need Prahladanand Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Praram Pavani Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam. Mataji, Sukadev Goswami was Mayavadi or
Brahmavadi. Yeah, Brahmavadi. But still, his thought process was different, right? He was not attracted to the personal form of the Lord.
Gotcha, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Oh, what is that? Can you see what it is?
Okay, now we'll go to text number 43. This is very famous verse and important verse to memorize. Kirtida Mataji was mentioning only two verses from chapter 3. One is Eti Chamsakala Pumsha and the other one is Krishne Swadhamo Bhagate. So we'll take some volunteers to recite the verse. You can raise your hand and please memorize. And I believe by end of month, you should upload all your memorization verses. So, yes. Yes, who wants to recite? Very famous. I don't think it requires any. Yeah, go ahead, Parampavani. You can recite and everyone can follow you.
Krishne Swadhamopagate Dharma Jnanadibhihi Saha कलौ नष्ट दृश्यम् एषा पुराणार्को धुनोदितः.
Thank you, Mataji. So, Sadamini Mataji, then Indulika after Sadamini.
Thank you, Mataji. कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशामेष पुराणार्को दिनो उदिता.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Indulika Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशामीशा पुराणार्को धुनोदिता. Hare
Very
Krishna. Thank you.
nice. Very, very nice. Madhuramai Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण माताजी धन्यवाद प्रणाम. कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशाम् एषा पुराणार्को अधुनोदितः.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. Lalita Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह कलो नष्टदृशामीश पुराणार्कोऽधुनोदितः.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. Shyam Gopal Prabhu.
स्वधर्मोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशामेष पुराणार्को धुनोदितः.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Very nice. Nisha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you. I'm going to try. Krishne Swadhamopagate Dharma Jnana Tipi Saha Kalau Nastadrisham Esha Punarnarko Dhunodhitaha.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. Hare Krishna. So the idea of making everyone recite is so that if we keep hearing this verse, it's easier to memorize. Benefit of all. So that's why we all recited this verse multiple times. Okay. Krishne swadhamo pagate dharmajnanadibi saha kalau nashta drishamesha punararko adhunodita. So, Krishne means in Krishna's. Swadhama, you all know what Swadhama is, his own abode. Upagata means he returned. So, when Krishna returned to his dham, Swadhama, when he went back to the spiritual world. Dharma, what happened to Dharma and Jnana? Dharma Jnanadibhiha Saha. So how did Krishna return? When Krishna went to Swadhama, when he went to the spiritual abode, he took Dharma and Jnana with him. Krishne Swadhama Upagate Dharma Jnana Adibhihi Saha. He took everything with him. Kalau, in this Kali Yuga, because now when Krishna went, he took away whatever he brought with him. He takes it away. So then what happens in the age of Kali? Because as soon as Krishna disappears, Kali Yuga starts. So Kalau Nashta Drisham. In this age of Kali, all of us, we have lost our strength, our sight. We have lost our sight. Drisha means the sight. Nashta means loss. All of us have lost sight. That means it's not that we all became blind, but rather we don't have the correct vision. Eshaha, all these people who have lost their vision. Purana Arka. Arka means you all know sun. Purana Arka. I think we had this earlier also. How Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to a lamp. It is compared to a sun. We have discussed this, right? I think Kanai Prabhu must have discussed. Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to a lamp, it is compared to a sun, it is compared to Mohini Murti, and it is compared to a tasty fruit. 4 items. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says in the commentary to the first verse. So, Bhagavatam is compared to the sun, Bhagavatam is compared to the lamp, Bhagavatam is compared to Mohini Murti, and Bhagavatam is compared to a tasty fruit. Now, Purana Arka. This Purana is compared to a brilliant sun. So, this This Purana is like the brilliant sun. Uditaha. Uditaha means it has risen. That means this Bhagavata Puran that is as brilliant as the sun, it has risen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. He takes away everything. He brings everything with him. He takes away everything with him. So persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance and the age of Kali, because everything is gone, darkness has come. When light goes, what happens? Darkness comes. So we need another sun. That another sun is this Purana Artha. That is the Bhagavatam. So the persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So it's a very beautiful, beautiful verse. If you can rephrase this and tell it in English, that is fine too for the translations, because we have to upload not only shloka but also translations in our exam. So this Bhagavata Purana is the sun that is dissipating the darkness in the age of Kali. How did Kali set in? It set in when Krishna departed. Where did Krishna go to? He went to his Swadhama. He went to the spiritual world. And he didn't go hands empty. He took away. He took away religion, knowledge, everything. So this world was filled with darkness. All the people in the age of Kali, they lost their vision and they got the light from this brilliant sun Purana, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, this is the answer to one of the 6 questions of the sages of Naimisharanya. Which was that question?
Where did after Krishna's departures, the religious principles, I mean, who helped, something like that was it. Mataji, I'm not able to rephrase
You said
it.
correctly. Where
Question
did
6 was there, right? Last question.
Yeah. Where did Dharma
Took
take
shelter? Oh, okay. That was correct.
It was correct, yes. Where did Dharma take shelter of after the departure of Lord Sri Krishna? You said it right. Yes, the answer is in Srimad Bhagavatam. That is this verse. So now, before we get into the purport has been written so beautifully. I'll tell you how Prabhupada has written the purport. If you read the purport, you'll also follow that. Prabhupada has split this verse like Krishna Swadhama Pagate. He has written one paragraph for that. Dharma Jnana Dipisa. He has written one paragraph. Like that, step by step, word by word, Prabhupada has written a purport to this. It's very beautiful. But before we get into that, let's do a quick revision. We can all raise hands one by one. 6 questions and the corresponding answers. So if everyone can bring it out from their memory. Raise hands. Madhuramai Mataji, question 1.
Hey, Krishna. So question 1 was, what is absolute and ultimate good for people in general?
Thank you, Mataji. Narahari Prabhu, question 2.
What is the essence of all scriptures?
Very nice. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Question 3, Ishwar Krishna Prabhu.
Why did the Lord appear in the womb of Devaki as
Yes,
the son of Vasudeva?
Very nice. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Question 4, anybody? Yes, Shyamagopal Prabhu.
Describe the Purusha avatar.
Very nice. Purusha avatars. Thank you so much, Prabhu. And then question 5.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Describe the Leela Avataras.
Very nice, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. And then Vrinda Vaishnavi, last question.
Where did religion or dharma take shelter after Krishna has ended all his pastime and returned to his own abode?
Wonderful, wonderful. Now we'll go to answer of question 1 and 2. What is the answer? Yes, Madhuramai Mataji.
Bhakti is the answer for 1 and 2 both.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Answer to the third question, Ishwar Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very nice, Prabhu. Answer to the fourth question, Shyamagopal Prabhu.
Shirodakshay Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Karnodakshay Vishnu.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you,
Not in the
Prabhu.
same order, but I think I lost the
Yeah.
order.
That's okay, Prabhu. We know that you know what you're saying. Thank you. And Narahari Prabhu, answer to the fifth question.
The Leela avatars of the Lord as described in chapter 3.
Wonderful. Yes, yes, yes. Very good. And then final answer.
For question
Srimad
6.
Bhagavatam.
Yes, Srimad Bhagavatam for question 6. And this is the verse that we quote for question number 6. That's also we know a summary of first 3 chapters now. 6 questions and answers. So it appears Bhagavatam is over, but then there'll be a small twist. It'll never get over because we think that we have asked questions and we have gotten our answers, but from the answers we get, we have new questions after listening to the answers. The answers itself will spring more questions in our heart, right? So that's what is happening here also. So we will discover that in a few minutes. Anyway. Purport. Let's see how Prabhupada writes the purport. Krishna Swadhamo Bhagate. So he says, Lord Krishna, he has his eternal dham or abode, which is the spiritual world. What is he doing in that eternal dham or spiritual world? Prabhupada says he's enjoying himself with his eternal associates and paraphernalia. Now, this eternal dham is nothing but a manifestation of his internal energy, whereas the material world that we are all in is a manifestation of his external energy. Though Krishna resides eternally in his spiritual abode, from time to time he also comes to this material world. Why does he come to this material world? He comes with his paraphernalia, with his internal potency, with everything, so that he can come and interact with us and reclaim all the fallen souls, right? So he comes along with his internal potency, his form, his name, his fame, his paraphernalia, abode, everything. He brings everything with him when he comes here. So which means that Krishna's Nam, Dham, name, form, paraphernalia is non-different from Krishna. They are all eternal, just like Krishna. Krishna and his name is non-different, we know. Krishna and his dham is non-different. Krishna and his paraphernalia are non-different. Everything is absolute. So when Krishna descends into this material world, he comes with everything. So when he goes back from this world, he takes back everything. Okay. So he descends to reclaim the fallen souls and re-establish the codes of religion which are enacted by him. So we know the reasons why Krishna appears. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says that I come to protect religious principles, protect the pious, annihilate the miscreants, give pleasure to the devotees. So those are the reasons why Krishna comes to this world. And he is the one who has really created this dharma jnanadi saha. He has taken everything with him, right? Krishna, when he has gone to the spiritual world, he takes everything. Who is the creator of that dharma? Krishna himself is the creator of this dharma because nobody else can manufacture dharma. He himself has established these religious principles. Either he or a suitable person empowered by him only can dictate the codes of religion. So we see sometimes of course, this Vyasadeva was directly Krishna, but then the Vyasadevas of the previous Chaturayugas, they could have been empowered by Krishna. They are the ones who are giving us the codes of religion. And through religion, what do we know? Through this dharma, what do we know? Dharma means to know God. Real religion means to know God, know our relationship with him, our duties in relation to him, and understand our destination on giving up this body. Sambandha Videya Prayojana. Pretty much that is what he's telling. Dharma should teach us who is God, what is my relationship with him, how I can know him, or how I can go back to him. That is what dharma should teach. So who is the creator of this dharma? It is Sri Krishna. Okay, so the conditioned souls who are entrapped in the material energy hardly know these principles of life. So Krishna has to come and teach us. We are all like animals. We are simply doing eating, sleeping, mating, defending. That's what we are doing all the time. We are engaged in sense enjoyment and we are not at all interested in dharma. But then, especially in this age of Kali, Prabhupada is telling, in this age of Kali, especially People are very much interested in sense gratification, and we are like animals. We are not interested in religious or spiritual life. So we are very proud of our advancement, and we have lost sight of the goal of life. But then Krishna, he's very, very merciful. He appears in this world by his own will, and he comes and he teaches us that this is not the goal of life, and he teaches us real dharma. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared before us just prior to the beginning of Kali Yuga, just 5,000 years ago. It's actually very recent. We are all very unfortunate. We missed it. We are even more unfortunate because just 500 years ago, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, just 500 years ago. If you look at the eternity of time, how many births we have taken, we have really missed the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And forget that, we have missed even Prabhupada, right? How sometimes it sounds very unfortunate, but actually, our generation is the most fortunate. Why? Because we get to know about Prabhupada, we get to know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we also get to know about Krishna. And the previous generation, they were all serving Prabhupada relentlessly day and night, creating this very nice organization, giving us all the scriptures in a readable format in English. And our generation is the best generation. Though we didn't see any of them in person, we are reaping the benefits of all the previous generations. Who knew that they would be Veda-based and we would be reading it online and we would be discussing something like this today? So actually, we are the most fortunate. And we're just sitting in the comfort of our houses and we are getting all this knowledge. That to Srimad Bhagavatam. In ancient days, they had to go, they had to walk up north, give up family life, go in search of a guru, and then get knowledge. But then today, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, everything is available. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, everything is there in the English language, click of a button in front of the screen. So we are indeed very fortunate. Anyway, so when Krishna was present, he exhibited all his different activities. He spoke the Bhagavad Gita. He eradicated all the adharmic principles. And before he left, he empowered Srila Vyasadeva through Narada to compile the messages of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. So basically, before Krishna left, though Krishna took away Dharma Jnanadi Bisaha, and he took away and he went, and immediately Kali Yuga set in. So it appeared that everybody in Kali Yuga are lost in darkness. But then Krishna was not so merciless that he just took away everything and he left us to be in darkness. Rather, he gave the messages of the Srimad Bhagavatam to great personalities like Vyasadeva. He made Narada inspire Vyasadeva to write the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he himself spoke the Bhagavad Gita before he left the planet. So therefore, he has given us two important scriptures so that these scriptures can be the guiding light. So Srila Prabhupada is telling, Srimad Bhagavatam, and thus the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam are like torch bearers for the blind people of this age. So we don't have to feel very morose that we don't have Krishna. We have the Srimad Bhagavatam that is non-different from Krishna, and we have the Bhagavad Gita that is directly the words of Krishna. In other words, if the men in this age of Kali, they want to see real light in life, we need only two books, and our aim will be fulfilled. Bhagavad Gita is a preliminary study of the Bhagavatam, and this Bhagavatam is the summum bonum of life of Lord Sri Krishna personified. It is directly Krishna himself. Therefore, we accept Srimad Bhagavatam as a direct representative of Krishna. One can see Srimad Bhagavatam. If you can see Srimad Bhagavatam, you can see Lord Krishna in person. They are identical. That's why it is said the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna's lotus feet. If we understand the first canto thoroughly, then we have understood the lotus feet of the Lord thoroughly. Once we have understood the lotus feet of the Lord, tomorrow we will identify Krishna's lotus feet. Otherwise, we will not be able to identify Krishna's lotus feet. If we identify Krishna's lotus feet, we can identify everything else. So everything begins with the feet, right? So the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam should be studied very, very nicely. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam are the two most special scriptures. Last verse of this canto. Yes, Prabhuji.
Mataji, there are two slokas which glorify Bhagavad Gita
Yes.
and Bhagavatam. First one is by Shankaracharya himself. He said, Bhagavad Gita kinchidadita ganga jallo kanika pita. Takrudapi murari samarcha kriyetan yasyas yamena charcha. And Sarvopnishado Gao Dugdha Gopal Nandana, he has all glorified Bhagavad Gita like that. And what to speak of Srimad Bhagavatam, the second slok says, Kimba Parariswari Sadhya Rudya Vrudyate. Even desiring to read will lock Lord Sri Krishna in someone's heart. So these are the two glorious attributes for Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. I just wanted to share that, Mata.
Hari
Thank you.
bol, Hari bol, Hari bol. Prabhupada also said, right? If you want to talk about, if you read one verse of Bhagavatam, your life will be perfect. What to talk about one verse, even one word, it is enough to purify us. Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for quoting those two verses. Okay, this is verse number 44. Tatra kirtayato vipra viprashrirбhuri tejasa aham chadyagamam tatra nivashtas tad anugrahat soham vaha shravayishyami yataditam yatamati. This is so beautiful. This is Sutta Goswami telling. He says yataditam yatamati. Remember, in the previous verse, Sutta Goswami was telling that Shukadev Goswami spoke this to Parikshit, who was fasting, and in the middle of all the sages were present. The Sutta Goswami was also present. The Sutta Goswami has directly heard it in Parampara. But then he says so beautifully, Yataditam yatamati. That means I have learnt it. Okay, I have learnt it, and I have learnt it and added my realizations. I have understood it as per as the capability of my realizations. And then I'm giving this to you. This is how, though we are getting the knowledge in Parampara, you see everybody is adding their realizations. But these realizations are in line with the Guru Parampara's understanding. It's not that they have a realization that is contradictory to what is being taught. That even today, when we are asked to give classes, we add our realizations. But this realization should be in line with Shastra. It should be in line with the mood of Guru Maharaj. Right? So this Sutta Goswami is setting a standard, gold standard. He says, Yataditam yatamati. I have heard it as it is, and then I've added my realization. I've understood it nicely, and I'm giving it to you all, O sages. So he says, O learned Brahmanas, when Shukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard it with rapt attention. And thus, by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam from that great powerful sage. Now, I shall try to make you hear not something different, that very same thing, as I learned from him. The same thing I learned from him, and as I have realized it. Yataditam yatamati. I'm using my mati, my intelligence also. I'm adding my realizations, but it is as per what he said. I'm not changing anything. Okay, yataditam yatamati. That is the principle of hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada is telling, definitely one can see the presence of Lord Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam if we hear it from great souls like this. If one has heard it from a great soul like Shukadeva Goswami, one will definitely see Krishna in every page of Srimad Bhagavatam. However, if we hear the Srimad Bhagavatam from bogus hired reciter, then such recitation is not going to create a change of heart. It will only contaminate our consciousness. So the secret of hearing proper Bhagavatam is not to hear from a mundane scholar. Rather, Bhagavatam should be heard from a great representative like Shukadev Goswami. Otherwise, we cannot see Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam. We are very fortunate. We have everybody's realizations. We have Shukadev Goswami's realizations. We have Vyasadev's realizations. We have Sutta Goswami's realizations. Everybody's present here in the Bhagavatam that we are reading. We have our Prabhupada's realizations. We have Vishnu Chakravarti's realizations. So how fortunate are we? So that is the process. There is no other alternative. Sutta Goswami is a bona fide representative of Shukdev Goswami, and he wanted to present the message as it is. Sukadev Goswami, how did he hear? He heard it from his father. Vyasadeva. So like this Bhagavatam is given from one generation to another. This is the method of presenting the Bhagavatam. Simple hearing is not all. One must realize the text with proper attention. Yataditam yatamati means not just hearing and repeating like a parrot. You should realize, and then with proper attention, you should have realization, and then you repeat. The word nivishta means that Suta Goswami drank the juice of Bhagavatam through his ears. This is how you realize the Bhagavatam. You should hear with rapt attention. Otherwise, you will not realize. Realizations won't come if you are not hearing with proper attention and proper mood. That's why Krishna also said, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena seria. You should hear nicely from a spiritual master by serving him in the right mood. Then only you will be able to grasp the essence of what he is teaching. So, the secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. What should we do? We should give rapt attention, proper attention. Then only it will go into the heart and create realizations. And Prabhupada is telling nobody can give rapt attention who's not pure in mind. To get rapt attention, we have to be pure in mind. And nobody can be pure in mind who's not pure in action. Nobody can be pure in action if one is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But somehow or the other, if one hears in rapt attention, he can surely see Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam. That means what? First and foremost thing, we should become pure in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That is the first business. If we become pure in these four things, then our actions will be pure. If our actions are pure, our mind will be pure. If our mind is pure, then only we can give rapt attention to Srimad Bhagavatam. Only if we give rapt attention to Srimad Bhagavatam, we will get realizations in our heart. Okay, for Suta Goswami, yataditam yatamati, to come to that point, all this was satisfied. We already saw the qualities of Suta Goswami in one of, I think it was in second chapter. We already saw his great qualities, why he was elected as the leader of that assembly, why the seat of honor was given to him, why he was asked to speak. Why? Because he had all these qualities. Okay. So such a person can really see Krishna in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now this is our take-home lesson, especially for me. So we start with being clean in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and then we can get pure actions, then we can get pure mind, then we can get rapt attention, then we can get realizations in the heart. And it doesn't stop there. You see Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam as you're getting realizations. This is the power of Bhagavatam. It will bring Krishna in front of your eyes. Okay, so now 15 minutes. Yes, Amit Prabhu, and then I will quickly go through the summary of chapter 4 to see what to expect in chapter 4. Amit Prabhu,
Hare
you
Krishna,
want to?
Mataji. It's a wonderful class. I'm one of the unfortunate who has been missing so many classes, but this sleeping, eating point reminded me of one of the lecture which I heard from Prabhu in India, Noida. He said we need to plant the seed in our heart for Krishna consciousness, but right now everyone is planting the seed which is sleeping, eating, expanding, and defending. So your definition of the seed need to change. So that reminded me of that realization. So that is certainly something for all of us to think about, which seed we want to plant.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes, we need to think about which seed we want to plant. So
Thank you.
beautiful. Thanks, Prabhu. Thank you so much for adding that.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Now a quick overview of what to expect in the next chapter, chapter 4. I will show, yeah, that was not the question, right? Okay. I will share that, and then from next class on Tuesday, we will start with chapter 4 of the first canto. It appears like Bhagavatam is over because the 6 questions were answered, but then Bhagavatam, we know it's never ending, it keeps continuing. And even after we study the 12 cantos of Bhagavatam, also we have further questions, and our speakers have more and more realizations on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is never ending. Anyway, chapter 4 is called as the appearance of Sri Narada. So now what happened was, after all these 6 questions were answered by Suta Goswami, the sages of Naimisharanya, they were very pleased with Suta Goswami. The Suta Goswami, again, the qualities of Suta Goswami is mentioned. Suta Goswami was very elderly, Vriddha. He was Kulapati. He was the leader of the assembly. He was learned. And they were so happy with him and they congratulated him, because whenever there is a speaker, right? Speaker comes and gives Bhagavatam class or Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavat class, we immediately congratulate the speaker. We say, oh, thank you so much. The class was very good. That's how everyone speaks. So now all the sages, they express their gratitude. Looking at, hearing what Suta Goswami had to answer, because they had 6 questions and all these answers were given. So they congratulated him. They said, you're the most fortunate Mahabhaga and you're the best of all speakers. So please narrate what Shukadev Goswami told to Parikshit Maharaj. What all messages were spoken by Shukadev Goswami. Now we want to hear that. So now they got a clue. Okay, this Bhagavatam was already spoken earlier and you learned it from there. What else was spoken? That desire was there in their heart. Now they put their questions together. They had 3 more questions in their heart. So initially they had 6 questions. Now we are going to go to the second set, which is 3 more questions that sprung up in their heart when they heard the answer of Suta Goswami, telling that he heard it like this in Parampara and he was glorifying Shukadev Goswami. They also had a desire. We also want to hear what Shukadev Goswami spoke. And they put their desire together in 3 questions. So the first question was about the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. So they asked Suta Goswami, you said Bhagavatam was already spoken by Shukdev Goswami and Shukdev Goswami heard it from his father. So actually in which yuga, in which place and for what reason? How did Vyasadev get inspired to compile the Bhagavatam? You said Bhagavatam, Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam. It is the cream of all Vedic literature. How did Vyasadev come up with this literature? What inspired him to write the literature? When did he put it together? So tell us more about the history and the compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam. And they add their reasoning, why they want to know. They say Vyasadev's son, Shukadev Goswami, he was a Mahayogi and he was equibalanced monist. He was a monist, right? Just like how Prabhu was mentioning. Shukadev Goswami himself is a classic example of being a monist. So he was an equibalanced monist. His mind was always concentrated on monism. He always he was very self-satisfied, and in fact, he would go to the door of a household for not more than the time that was needed to milk a cow. That means just a few minutes. Beyond that, he would not stay. Even if he went near the door of a household, he would only go there to give them some Krishna conscious message, not otherwise, not just for sake of filling his stomach or something like that. He was not even dressed properly. He appeared ignorant, but then he was a great monist. He was a great transcendentally realized soul. In fact, once when some damsels were bathing in the river without clothes, at that time Vyasadev passed by. When they saw Vyasadev, they covered themselves. But then when Shukadev Goswami passed by, they didn't even care to cover themselves. Why? Because they knew very well that Shukadev Goswami doesn't make distinctions between male and female. They could understand his transcendental level. So this Shukadev Goswami, how come he went to Hastinapur? When did he go to Hastinapur? How did the people recognize Shukadev Goswami? He appeared like a madman. He appeared dumb and retired. How did they receive him? How did the meeting happen between Parikshit and Shukadev Goswami? Tell us in which place this Bhagavatam appeared. How was the conversation between Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj for the because Bhagavatam first appears by Srila Vyasadev churning the different scriptures and presenting the essence. That is the first appearance of Bhagavatam that they have asked. Now they are very, very curious to know how Bhagavatam again appeared during the conversation of Shukadev Goswami and the other sages and Parikshit Maharaj. So they're glorifying Shukdev Goswami. They say Shukdev Goswami was a monist. He would not stay at the door of a householder long enough for a cow to be milked. And he would just go there to sanctify the household. So they have glorified Shukadev Goswami. They want to know how Shukadev Goswami went to Hastinapur and how he had contact with Parikshit Maharaj and how he spoke the Bhagavatam. So the first question was about the Bhagavatam's history composed by Vyasadeva. The second question was about Shukadeva Goswami himself. How did this great Shukadeva Goswami go to Hastinapur and speak the Srimad Bhagavatam? That was the second question. Now, the third question is about the listener of Srimad Bhagavatam. Second question was about the speaker of the Bhagavatam. The third one was about the listener of the Srimad Bhagavatam, who is Parikshit Maharaj. So they asked, tell us more about this Parikshit Maharaj. How was his birth? What were his activities? He was a first-class devotee. He was a great emperor. All the enemies, they were easily conquered by Parikshit Maharaj. He was the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. He was young and powerful, full of opulences. Tell us more about him, his birth, his activities, his rule, and more importantly, why did he go to the bank of the river Ganges to give up his life? Why did he want to fast until death? What really happened in his life? So this was the third question about Parikshit Maharaj's life. So they glorify Parikshit Maharaj, saying Parikshit Maharaj was free from all attachment. And why did he give up his body that was the shelter of others? The body of a king is the shelter of all the citizens. Why did the king want to give up his life? So that is their question. And they had these three questions. First is about how Bhagavatam was compiled. Second was about the speaker of Bhagavatam, which was Shukadev Goswami. Third was about the listener of Bhagavatam, that was Parikshit Maharaj. So three questions. First there were 6 questions, now 3 questions. And after they asked these questions, they expressed their confidence in Sutta Goswami. They are encouraging the speaker. They say, you're an expert in all the subjects. You know all the Vedas. You can definitely answer our questions. We just have 3 more questions. So, of course, if you read Subodhini, it will tell you where all the answers are given for these 3 questions. Okay. So then, from verses 14 to 25, Sutta Goswami begins to answer question number 1. Question number 1 was about the history of Srimad Bhagavatam, how it was compiled by Vyasadeva. So to tell that, he begins to answer that question in these verses. He says, Vyasadeva was born of Parashara and Satyavati in the 3rd part of the Dwapar Yuga in the 28th Divya Yuga of the 7th Manvantara, which is the Vaivasvata Manvantara. So when he says 3rd part of Dwapar Yuga means a yuga is divided into 3 parts. The first Sandhya, the beginning Sandhya, and then the middle part, and then the last part, which is the ending Sandhya. So during the ending Sandhya of the Dwapar Yuga, the son of Parashara and Satyavati, he in the 28th cycle of the 7th Manvantara, he compiled the Vedas. Okay, he presented the Vedas. So he was meditating on the bank of the river Saraswati, and then he could see the vision that in Kali Yuga people are going to be Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya. So all these qualities are going to be there in the age of Kali. They are going to be decreased in bodily strength. They are going to be faithless, and they are dull-witted. They are unlucky. So all these different qualities are there for the people in the age of Kali. So I cannot just give this one Veda and say, figure it out. I have to give it in proper divisions. So that one Veda, he decided to divide into 4 parts. And he didn't stop there. He gave us a gamut of Puranas, so many different Puranas as the 5th Veda. Okay. So like this, Vyasa, he comes to classify. Generally, when Brahma speaks the Vedas, it all comes out together. It is like a bag of mixed jewels. But then this Vyasa, he comes and he classifies that mixed bag. That bag has rubies, emeralds, corals, and pearls. So what does Vyasa do? He takes out all the rubies, he puts it in one box. He takes out all the corals, he puts it in a different box. Emeralds in one box and pearls in one box. So like that, he classifies it into different divisions and he gives us the 4 Vedas, which is Rig, Sama, Yajur, Atharva Vedas. So like that, he gives us 4 divisions so that it is easy for the people in the age of Kali to follow the Vedas. That is the first thing he does. And then what did he do? He gave the Rig Veda to Paila Rishi, Sama Veda to Jaimini, Yajur Veda to Vaishampayana, Atharva Veda to Sumantu Muni and Angira. And then remember that 5th set, the large chunk of Puranas, that he gave to Romaharshana. So who's Suta Goswami? Suta Goswami is the son of Romaharshana. Why is Suta Goswami telling the Puranas instead of Romaharshana? You all know the answer. Balaram came and took away his head. So the son became the speaker of the Bhagavatam. The son becomes the speaker of the Puranas. So anyway, now these leaders were, they were all the propagators, group leaders. So they passed it on to their disciples and grand disciples. So like this, many branches came into existence. So this Vyasa, he edits the Vedas, he classifies them and he disseminated it. He disseminated all the 4 Vedas in a way that it was easy to assimilate. But then he also composed the Mahabharata that was very easily readable in a story format for Sri Sudras and Dvijabandhus who are not so much into hearing the Vedas. Okay, so for their benefit also, out of compassion, he gave the Mahabharata. But then Vyasa did everything. But in spite of doing all this, his mind was very dissatisfied. He thought he's working for the welfare of all living entities, but he was not satisfied. Generally, when we do something for the benefit of all, okay, we're trying to work hard for the benefit of others, there is a satisfaction that you get. But Vyasadeva was thinking, I'm doing for the benefit of everyone. I'm thinking I'm benefiting all, but I'm not finding any satisfaction. My heart is not, I'm not feeling happy. Paramatma is not reciprocating. There is something wrong. So he was reflecting on it. He was thinking, I have undergone strict disciplinary vows. I have worshipped Vedas. I've worshipped Guru. I've done proper sacrifice. I've even explained the Mahabharata. Why am I feeling dissatisfied? Maybe I have not given enough focus on devotional service, which is very dear to the Lord. Maybe that is the reason why I am feeling dissatisfied. Now look at Vyasadeva. When he had a problem, he just didn't go and run to somebody and say, I have a problem, give me a solution. He first analyzed for himself. What is the cause of my dissatisfaction? Maybe this is the reason, but then I need confirmation. So for confirmation, when he's thinking like that, when you think that you need help, immediately Paramatma reciprocates and sends Guru, right? That is when Narada Muni, he comes to his ashram. By his own will, he comes to the ashram and immediately Vyasadeva, he respectfully got up, worshipped Narada and wanted to ask him the confirmation. Is it, in the next chapter we'll ask, am I feeling dissatisfied because I'm not glorified? This is my hunch. This is what I'm thinking. But you have to confirm as a guru. So later in the next chapter, we will ask Narada Muni questions. So with that, we'll stop here. This is what we're going to see. Quick trailer of the next chapter. And we will start from verse number 1 on Tuesday. We'll end here. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, realizations? Yes, Narihari.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. So I remember in the class we had with Kanai Krishna Prabhu, he was mentioning about 6 plus 4 questions, like 6 questions which are asked, and then he said 4, if I'm not mistaken. Or did I mishear it?
Yeah, you can make it 4, you can make it 3, the classification. Basically, I am following Subodhini for the classification as 3. But then the same thing you can also classify as 4. It's up to us, Prabhu, how you want to classify it. Like, for example, yeah, it's actually up to us. We don't have to worry so much about the number. Because if you see here, the first question is definitely about Srimad Bhagavatam. The second question is more about Shukadev Goswami. There is also a question about the meeting of Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And then you can even classify it as Parikshit Maharaj's activities and later how he decided to give up. Because the verses are all separate, right? You can classify it as any number, right? Yeah. This is for easy following.
Easy.
One question about the scripture, the content that was spoken, one question about the speaker, one question about the listener.
Nice. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
I don't remember exactly how he made it into 4, but I remember vaguely that he said you can make it into 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how you want to classify. Yeah.
Sure.
I hope the question bank is not asking specific numbers. I hope. I don't know. If it's asking, we will edit that. Okay.
Mataji, what is question bank you're mentioning? And is there like the question bank which is there in the student handbook?
Yes.
Oh, okay, Mataji. I didn't check for next chapter. Also, Mataji, just a humble request. Is it possible we could get the summary notes that you were referring to? You said it was done previously. You can share it in a Google Doc. Is it possible to share?
I sent it, right? The Google Drive, no? I sent it. The PowerPoints you're asking, right?
Yes, Mataji. You did send it? Okay,
Send it again. I mean, it's only a link. I can always send it again.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry for the inconvenience.
No problem. No problem. What is that? I can send it again. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu.
I want to know open book questions for the exam.
It's in the handbook.
In the handbook?
Yes, Prabhu. Open book, closed book, shlokas, everything is in the handbook.
What is the last date for,
Prabhu?
submission of open
Only
book?
shlokas, open book, closed book, we have a long way to go, Prabhu. Only the shlokas till chapter 3 we have to submit by month end. Closed book, I think we will do after end of first canto, right?
Okay.
Yeah, the first module exam is at the end of first canto. Closed book. Yeah.
And then open book?
Open book, Mataji, do you know? Do we have? I don't know. Actually, I have to see. Maybe at the end of first canto. I will see in
End
Divyangi
of
knows.
first canto.
Prabhuji?
End of first canto.
End of first canto, yes, Prabhuji.
And then lecture?
A lecture, I think there is one presentation at the end of first canto, but Prabhuji, shall I get back on this because I didn't read the exact exam schedule. I think Ketila Mataji is not on call, so I can't even ask her. So let me consult with her and then send a message on the group. Is that okay, Prabhu? I don't
Yes,
remember correctly.
that will be okay.
I'll do that. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Divyangi Mataji, you have any inputs?
Oh no, Mataji, I had a question.
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you so much for the beautiful class, Mataji. You were explaining about like the Bhagavatam is compared with 4 things like the lamp, the sun, Mohini avatar, or 3 or 4, Mataji. Can you explain a little bit? Truth. Okay. Oh, okay. So this is based on the verses. That's how these 4 are derived, Mataji. Okay. Truth is the Nigama Kalpataror, that one, and then Apurana Artha is the sun, and Mohini and lamp.
I have to look up the verse, but there is but Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, if you have the commentary, if you open it up, you go to the first verse, Mataji, I can also open it up, no problem.
Okay, I'll check then, Mataji.
Yeah, the very first verse, 1.1.1, Chakravarti Path gives a detailed commentary on why it is compared to the 4.
Okay, Mataji.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Very well. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Let me see if I can actually pull it up if you want. No, it's going to, I think it's very big, right? So it's taking a while. But if you just read the first one, Mataji, the first one commentary, by
Yes,
all summary of all the commentaries is presented in the first one. There towards the end, you can see Mohini, Lamb, each one he explains why. Yeah,
Okay.
Mohini Avatar. This is the verse, Mataji, for Mohini Avatar. 12th canto, chapter 13, verses 11 and 12. For the sun, of course, we have already seen 1.3.43 for the sun. And then for
Mataji, lamp, it's 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Thank you, Mataji. For lamp, it's 1, 2, 3. And then fruit Nigama Kalpataru. It's 1, 1, 3. Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Mataji.
you.
Okay, so then we can end. And Krishnavani Prabhu, I will check with Mataji and I will get back on the dates for the
Okay.
closed book, open book, and shlokas, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Vancha Kalpataru. Oh, Parampavani, yes.
Hey Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Mataji,
Yes.
I had a question that like why Sutta Goswami Balarao killed Roma Harshana, right, Mataji, during his what is called Yatra pilgrimage, and that time Sutta Goswami was getting any boon so that he could get like I couldn't get the point he was making about why he during this class something came up with Roma Harshana and I couldn't follow that. What was
No. The reason why we spoke about Ramaharshan in the class is because in chapter 4 that we will be studying very soon, Vyasadeva, he gives different sections of the Vedas to different rishis, and then he submits all the Puranas. The group leader for disseminating the Puranas content was Ramaharshana. It was initially given to Ramaharshana, then it was transferred to Sutta.
Oh, gotcha, Mataji. Thank you so much, Dandavat Pranam. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees. We'll end here. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhesha kripasindhubhesha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय।
Jai
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Bhakti.
तथा श्रीमद् भागवत की जय।
की जय।
हरे प्रीति
Krishna,
वैष्णव की जय।